I must admit I'm taking small steps at a time to slowly discover, to find out the issues or challenges, because every caregiver has very different challenge, I must say. I think for a start, I would encourage the organizations that have a workshop with us. I would invite their caregivers to come along, and the caregiver during that time has their own respite. They will do their own thing. So, for example, the senior and the caregiver could craft herbal products together. And I told the caregiver, your job is to take care of yourself during this workshop. You choose the scent, the herbs that you like for your own product, for your own well-being. You're not making another thing for the person you care for.
Hi, everyone. Today I am in conversation with the lovely Cherry Thian. Cherry is the founder of Little Changemakers, which is a Singapore-based social enterprise that actually designs user-centered programs for seniors, for children, and also for individuals who have special needs. So thank you so much for joining me today, Cherry.
Thank you for having me to share a little story of my life and my work with your audience.
Great. I'm looking forward to it. Cherry, let's talk a little. Okay, yeah, maybe we should start by asking you how you actually got into social enterprise.
I love telling this story because I used to work at the museum in Singapore,
Which
and
museum was this? Which museum?
the Asians in the Peranakan Museum. So I worked at the education department. So one day when I stepped into the lift, I bumped into a staff who worked at, I would say, an activity center for the disabled, right? So when she was pushing the wheelchair into the lift, I just want to talk to her about her day. I said, "Oh, so what makes you, wants to come to the museum?" And she said that, yeah, because we were outside at the Singapore River and we just came to look into this museum because it was so beautiful. So I said, wow, did you find anything interesting? Is there anything that that you will want to come back again? And there was a slight hesitation from her side. So of course I asked a lot more, and she said that yeah, she wished there could be a lot more things for the people with disabilities in the museum. But this actually was more than 10 years, about 10 years ago. So that conversation etched in my mind. So when I went back to my office, I had this conversation with my colleagues. Thank goodness I was very blessed to have very supportive colleagues. And then we started to think about more programs that could meet different kind of needs, because people who comes to the museum, they are from different demographic, they have different learning abilities, and we should provide that kind of platform for different people. And of course COVID came, and the content that we developed has become a lot more valuable because people cannot come out of their house
Yeah.
and they cannot visit the museum physically. So what we have produced, like audio tours online and story-based tours online, and all became very popular. So that got me thinking, there are so many people out there who need a more accessible program that keeps them engaged meaningfully. So what more can I do, and what else can I do? So when I started Little Changemaker, it was with that one mission in mind. How might we as a society and community support individuals who have different needs than us?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And the fact that you had this museum background where you were designing programs, it's I guess it was just an extension of you then creating programs that actually benefit the individuals who have special needs or children, because you also now focus on not just individuals with special needs, it's also children, which is so incredible. I want to talk to you a little bit about in specifically about seniors, because in healthcare and in the CSR spaces, senior wellness, it often translates into activities and outputs. So what you are doing is so specific in terms of creating programs, right? So what do you think in general we're getting wrong about how we engage with older adults?
I started thinking about this question one day when I had this interaction with a senior. So she told me that sometimes she has lost the purpose in life because she's old and she felt that there's nothing she could contribute to the society, and hence the question mark, what is my purpose? Is it for me to wait to die, or just to wait for the time to go by so that I could return to where I was from? And I got me thinking, maybe the programs that we run is not just to keep them busy, perhaps it's to help them to find their purpose. In all of us, we wake up in the morning, and what spur us and motivate us to go on with our life is that, oh, I have something to do, I have something that I need to achieve.
Yeah.
So I think it is the same when you get older. You also want to wake up and think that I have that one thing I need to do. So when we look at our program, it is not just a one-off workshop. Of course, we do have that because based on the demands from our clients, but we started to look at how we could run a more sustainable model where we create spaces where seniors can start to look into contributing their skill set, maybe their talents, and perhaps things that they may not know that they are good at. So we are here to provide that space and platform for them to explore, to discover what they can do and what they are good at. And if they are interested in something, we are here to support and scaffold so that they could be better in what they're doing. And we want them to be ultimately a contributor, contribute back to the society in their own pace, in their own time.
Yeah, no, I think that's so important because it everyone gets old. It's not, people tend to think, oh, it's the other person. But at some point, it's going to be you as well. If these kind of programs encourage individuals to stay connected with the society in large, because I think it's unfortunate that the people who are young, and I guess it's more the challenges that when you're younger, you have so much else to focus on. You may have family to look after, you may have your own individual needs. So you tend to ignore the seniors. And I think that's where what the Little Changemakers is doing is bringing them back into society, is my understanding, which I think is so incredible. And it's one step at a time. You can't, obviously, if you do it, someone else may replicate and say, oh, that's a great idea. And maybe that's really what we should be doing. So I think it's one step at a time. For seniors to feel that they are contributing, I think is such an important way to get them to engage with society. I wanted to ask you, your you have a TCM inspired program, right? Which is crafting herbs for wellness. And these sessions are not clinical, but obviously they help in the well being of the seniors or of individuals who have special needs. So, how do you think? I don't know whether this is a controversial question, but how do you think the healthcare partners are actually responding, or how do you know they are responding to these programs?
I think for a start, crafting herbs for wellness is another multi-sensorial activities, because sometimes when we look at individuals, they may have poor vision, they have like probably poor motor skills, but having all this multi-sensorial experience does not really take your experience away just because one of your senses is not good. So when we craft herbs for wellness, of course we explore texture, we explore scent, but I think most importantly is when they have made a product out of the herbs, they can actually use it on their daily life and they could see the result. We are not here to claim that this is a treatment,
Yeah.
but it's another product to make yourself feel better. It's just going for a haircut
Yeah.
and you smell nice. I think one thing I like about this herbal products is because it smells good. And when you smell good, you feel confident, you feel happy. Because nobody wants to feel like, oh no, I smell terribly and I just want to feel good about myself. So I do have so many seniors telling me that they love the smell of the things that they make, they put besides their bed and they use it very frequently. And so that makes me feel that after 3 to 4 months, when we meet again, they will say, I'm still using the things that we make together. I say that is a great testimony of the things that we make has to have a longer shelf life and they must value the things that they make, and that products that they make bring a very tangible benefit to the senior. And of course, why we do this program is because when we used to do art and craft, I'm not saying that we totally replace the art and craft that we do,
Yeah.
but when we heard the seniors sharing that I don't like doing craft because I'm a man, I don't like to do this flower thing. I said, yeah, I heard you. And I think also, I think people who work with the seniors, they all have this same comment. It's very hard to get the men to join a workshop. So when we conduct workshop, we often see women are the majority. They love coming to this setting. So when we ask the men, so why is that you are not interested? He says that because I don't like the craft that you guys are doing.
Yeah.
So I said, what about if we make something that could make, let's say, you relax and you sleep better, or you can release your muscle tension? He said, yes, I'm in. I said, then you come next time. I'll make sure we do something like that. And we subsequently keep seeing the same faces coming, and they say, I'm going to make something good. I'm going to share with my friends. And these are the men who at first say they're not joining any of these activities, but we see
Correct.
them coming.
Yeah, no, that's good. Also, like when it comes to caregivers, because I think whether they are caregivers in a family or whether they're caregiver in from the clinical sense of it, sometimes they're so overstretched because they also probably get taken for granted. So how do you focus through Little Changemakers on caregivers as well? Because I think they are such an important component when it comes to whether it's clinical or family, come to an understanding and not be sort of stretched thin and be taken for granted. So, do you have any kind of programs or do you have anything that actually supports caregivers or gives them a better understanding of what is expected of them when it comes to seniors?
So I don't think I have that one answer that could solve all these issues, but I
Okay.
must admit I'm taking small steps at a time to slowly discover, to find out the issues or challenges, because every caregiver has very different challenge, I must say. I think for a start, I would encourage the organizations that have a workshop with us. I would invite their caregivers to come along, and the caregiver during that time has their own respite. They will do their own thing. So for example, the senior and the caregiver could craft a herbal products together. And I told the caregiver, your job is to take care of yourself during this workshop. You choose the scent, the herbs that you like for your own product, for your own well-being. You're not making another thing for the person you care for. So we want to recenter the individual back to that center. You matters.
Yeah.
In this moment, matter. So a lot of time caregivers are seen almost like a shadow, right?
Yeah.
They are
Yeah.
a quiet enabler, a person to help, to support. But I want them to be seen during this, however short the amount of time we have. I want you to have a choice. So that is the one step that we try to advocate. Another thing that I also realized that they would like to engage the seniors, but sometimes they lack the tools or the technique to do. So during one of the meeting that I have with the caregivers, and she told me that my grandmother likes to do crossword puzzles, but she only understands Malay. It's very hard to find crossword that's written in Malay in the topic that she can relate to. So she says sometimes I find this newspaper crosswords, but she doesn't. She has dementia, that's one thing. She can't relate to the words. To her, it's just another word. So I thought maybe we can start developing some crosswords with words that could relate to them culturally and historically, so that when they do, they could say, oh, they can talk about the words that they crossed out. They say, oh, I know, this cinema was the one that I went back in the 70s and 60s with someone that I know. So it is not just doing a crossword. Now it has like layered of experience they could talk about with someone that would love to connect with them. So we go back to the connection that you mentioned, right? So every activity we try to provide the little opportunity for the person to interact and connect with them, be it a volunteer, a friends or family, they have something to talk about. I think that also make the senior feel purposeful in the sense that I can share something about the past or my life that you do not know about.
Yeah. So it's basically invoking memories and a reminder. And that generally with the seniors and the older generation, how they are able to, they like talking about their past because it's their history. And for the younger generation, they may get impatient and say, okay, why are you repeating yourself? But I think for them, it's a way of reminding them of the life that they had and how they can still share it with the younger generation. And that's where I wanted to talk a little bit about this whole intergenerational sessions that happen where corporate employees and seniors, they tend to communicate. Do you think that what kind of an attitude shift do you see when they talk to each other? Because that would also apply to the younger generation, part of a family where the grandmother's probably or the grandfather's probably talking about what Singapore was in the 60s. And the older generation has no time and is not really willing to engage. So what do you think? Is this something that needs to be worked on? How are you able to, or are you trying to connect the generations, be able to, of course they coexist, but to be able to understand each other better?
So I think I would like to share a first story.
Yeah.
So when I ran one CSR event at a nursing home, I will always encourage the employees to have their children to come alongside with them. Why? Because they need to know the setting, and their parents are going to get old, their grandparents are going to get old as well. Now, the activities that I do, I always encourage the children to come because I will make it fun for them. Because the number one mindset I wanted to change through experience is that it is fun to be with the seniors because
Yeah.
the activities is fun. It's just as simple as that. And the children that I met at the nursing home, when they came, they were very, I would say, uncertain. They were hesitant. They're quite hesitant in that sense. But when they start going on, they will look at the craft materials. It was like, I want to do this. So one boy who was, I think, 8 years old, and we were doing a sewing of mugwort seat pillow for those who are sitting on a wheelchair. And he said that, I don't know how to do the sewing. I said, it's okay. Why don't you ask the auntie whether she can teach you? And the auntie said, let me teach you how to do the needlework. And you can see the item.
Yeah.
And then the guy who is the employee and the colleagues, what I meant was a colleague, he said, actually, I also didn't know how to sew. And we are talking about 20, 30 years old men.
Yeah.
And then he's like, it's okay. I can teach you too. And so there was like, they had so much fun, started to sew. And when I asked them about experience today, they said, I learned one thing new today. I finally know how to sew. So that words that come from a young, 8-year-old and a 30-year-old man, they all said the same thing. So it's very memorable for them because I said, you picked up something for the first time at the nursing home.
Yeah.
Not anywhere else, but at a nursing home, something that you will remember. And the second story I wanted to share also is that I have a facilitator. She just joined us last year. So she started to teach a lot more workshops with the senior. And it reminded her of her grand auntie who was, I think, 86 or 7 years old in Indonesia. So when she went to visit her at the end of, I think, just last month, she said, maybe I should start doing some craft with her for the very first time. So she has a dementia and light stroke, right? So she did some flowers with the pipe cleaners. And after that, the auntie told us that I really enjoy doing this. And after that, she could even start picking up the pen to start writing because she thought that she could not do all this. And because of these little activities that she is willing to try, and both of them willing to try, and it kind of regained her confidence, also some like self-esteem, and she started to say, maybe I want to pick up more new skills. So that's another intergenerational story that I like to tell because we need different people coming to our life to introduce new experience, to have that little, I would say, mix and match, so that our life is not always this. We have other inputs coming from different angles, even for younger people like us as well. When we interact with seniors, we started to think about our lives. How would we want to grow old? And people sometimes ask me like, why do you do this? I always say, because I can see myself how I want to grow old in 10, 20 years time. And I'm making little steps towards the target, the goal that I want to achieve. So I always ask the volunteers and the younger people, maybe before you start volunteering and after you volunteer, think about how you perceive aging for yourself
Yeah.
before and after. And that input always change.
Yeah.
Before they were like, oh, okay, grow old. But after interacting, they realize that one person shared with me, a life is like a storybook. How do we present this storybook to the next person is how we enrich our life with the stories in the book.
Yeah.
And that sums up what a senior is. They are a walking storybook.
Correct. Yeah. A walking storybook with a treasure trove of their life and the stories that they can share, which can only enhance and enrich. People think that with technology and the growth of technology and how everything is now like just a press button away, but I think it's the real human stories, which, if you're able to acknowledge, appreciate, and give credit to, I think there's so much of a learning there. I completely get that. I believe that, like, my mother is 93, for example, and she is constantly talking. She's all there, maybe physically a little frail, but mentally all there. And I always say to her and to whoever cares to listen that I think I am in the middle of my mother, who's had such an incredible life and has so many wonderful stories to share, to learn from, and my daughter. So I'm like, and so I'm privileged because I'm able to enrich myself from the older generation as well as the younger generation. So I think the understanding of that is so important, which a lot of people don't appreciate because they're just so busy with doing what they have to do and ignoring what actually is existing in their lives, and they're not able to really appreciate it. So I completely understand and appreciate what you're doing because you're just giving seniors dignity, you're giving them hope, you're giving them the fact that, yes, you may be senior, you may be old, but there's still so much that you can do and you still have a place in society. And I think that is so important and something to really appreciate. And for you moving forward, I think is amazing. But I also want to ask you about, I don't know how to pronounce it though. It's oldie still life, or how do
Yeah,
you say it?
Odyssey Life.
What is
Yes.
it? Can you say it again?
It comes from the word Odyssey, it's like an
Yeah,
acronym.
I figured.
The
Yeah.
whole is an online platform with downloadable and printable activities for in different languages, in different genre. So there's like a different, like you have art and craft activities, you have talking points, you have puzzles. So as long as you have a printer at home, you can just print it out and you can just share it with a senior person that you work with. Of course, we design and develop that content with the people with dementia in mind. So
Okay.
I was very blessed to be able to work with National Heritage Board because they are have such a rich content. So using my background as an educator in a museum before, I use that content to make into different activities that the senior could relate to work on it. And yeah, so it kind of help a lot of befrienders to when they visit the seniors. They often like, I do not know what to say, I don't know what activities. You don't have to think all this. You just print it out and then you just bring to the home that you visit and say, come, let's sit down and do something together.
Yeah.
So the whole point was to make things very easy for caregivers and even social workers as well. I met some very incredible healthcare workers in the hospital who use their free time to create all these resources. So yeah, I feel that with having this platform, if you have, this is like a call out for all the healthcare workers, if
Yeah.
you have developed all these printable activities, please share it with us so that we could share with more people and they could use your resources as well, because no point one person to keep reinventing the wheels, right? You
Yeah.
should have a library to collect, gather all these wonderful resources that are made by hundreds and healthcare workers, but it should, you made it available.
Yeah.
You would be very surprised to share that the people who use and download those contents are actually from other countries as well, the US, Australia, Singapore, of course, and Malaysia. Of course, even though the content was written based on Singapore and the cultures and the history, then I realized that maybe our seniors who migrated overseas, who still need some form of connection
Yeah.
to their background, and this is where they find all the activities.
Wow, that's
So
amazing. That's amazing. Yeah.
I was
And
very surprised.
also seniors who are curious to learn about another culture. That could also be a possibility. No, that's incredible. That's incredible. I think it, and I guess that's where the National Heritage Board, being the National Heritage Board, would step in. And yeah, no, absolutely. So I wanted to ask you with this conversation, what is the one approach that you think organizations could could take, and when it comes to engaging with seniors, what is the one message that you may have?
I would say, actually, can I have two words? Dignity and connection. So, dignity and connection. So, starting by offering choices. I do for you, I choose for you. I think we can take a step back and say that what would you like? What color would you like? So just by starting giving choices, I think that would be the first step to make that person feel respected and dignified. So the second, of course, is connection, which we have been talking about.
Yeah.
So when we do volunteering work, think about the time where it's for yourself to reflect of your life. When you interact with a senior, think about you in 10 to 20 years or 30 years time. How would you like to grow old? What kind of story do you want to put in your book that you could pass it on to the next generation? And from the day that you are standing right now, what are the things that you can start doing so that you could reach that goal when you are in your 80s? So that could help you bridge the gap with the senior. It's no longer you or me, you will be there. You will be this person. And that's where you can start connecting.
That's amazing. So, connection and dignity. On that note, thank you so much, Cherry. It's been a very inspiring conversation and more power to you. I think, your journey and how all of this has come to you. And this is like a calling. And it's incredible. And thank you once again. And if anyone wants to reach out, how would they do it after listening to this conversation?
Oh, they could probably send me an email. My
Okay.
email is little changemakers with an S
Okay.
at gmail.com.
Okay. Great. Sounds good. Thank you so much once again, Cherry.